just been really like weighing me down and stressing and been a lot of stress on me.
Are you trying to solve for stress right now, or are you trying to solve for the money puzzle? There's a saying, the more you look at your bank account, the more you know where the money in and money out is. Of course, that's the goal. That motivation allows you to grind it out harder.
Hello, my name is Peter Den, and I'm an entrepreneur. I own 2 7-figure businesses and 2 6-figure businesses in 3 different industries: dentistry, functional medicine, and business coaching. And I am all about helping entrepreneurs get to their next level. I'm a personal development junkie and biohacker, and I hope that we all can learn from my reflections and the journey that I currently am going on. I hope we all can learn from the stories that I share and the deep dive that we're going to get into. Let's begin.
I kind of need like a little bit of financial advice. So like I say throughout my life, I never really had a lot of money problems, but then recently I've gotten into a lot of car debt and like I'm also graduating this semester. That's why I'm like stressing to try to find a job so I can pay that off. And also like starting next semester, I'm gonna have to start paying off student loans too. Stuff like that has just been really like weighing me down and stressing and been a lot of stress on me. And I just want to know like what I could do to help with that.
Couple questions. Are you trying to solve for stress right now, or are you trying to solve for the money puzzle?
Are definitely the money puzzle.
I do want to address that part too, because part of the goal, I think, is to create a system, right? Create a system where you just have to show up and things work itself out, right? So essentially coming up with a robust plan so that it can work out. Your question is a loaded question because there's a lot of information that I would need, and I'm sure we wouldn't want to like talk about all of like the nitty-gritty details of the financial side. But I appreciate the question because you're showing your vulnerability and talking about this. So I would say a couple good starting places would be to make sure you have an emergency fund.
Hmm.
Okay. The reason why you have an emergency fund, I'll give you an example. One of my employees, dental hygienist, shows up to work every single day, has a car, didn't have an emergency fund, got into a car accident, and now they can't pay for the part on the car. Now life is different for them because they can't even drive to work. So it speaks to the fact that if you have an emergency fund, it allows you to have more options. And optionality is the thing that allows you to get through the different levels of success. Imagine a life where you couldn't afford a car part and you don't have a car to drive to work versus you have a car to drive to work. On one hand, you don't have the opportunity to have a job because you can't drive into work, right? Step one, try to have an emergency fund. If shit hits the fan, like you either have a network, a family, or a group or a money to fall back on if shit hits the fan. Step one is saving $1,000, okay? It's more important than paying down your credit card. Even if this hygienist paid down their credit card debt and didn't have an emergency fund, doesn't matter. You don't have the cash to pay for the car part. Doesn't matter that you paid off the credit card bill.
Yeah.
Step one is emergency fund. So have that in place. Step two would be figure out your debt cycle. If you have credit card debt, how much a month on interest is that going to be costing you? Figure out how much you would have to pay to begin knocking that down. And after you made some assumptions, like let's say you're in debt $1,000, okay? Each month you have to pay $100 or whatever, okay? So it gets paid off in 10 months, but it doesn't cover the interest. So figure out where the amount that you pay into it, that the credit card debt actually goes down, where it doesn't spin out of control. Because if you're paying down and the interest, let's say it's $10, right? If you're only paying $10 on the credit card debt, then it's never going away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not to say that you have to pay off the principal. Sometimes you have to make the decision where, hey, I'm going to take a hit for a little bit, but once I get to this level, I'm able to pay it off even more, right? People say, no, you have to pay off the principal. Of course, that's the goal, but figure out where that break even is and factor that into your decision. Figuring out all of your expenses and all your debts and understanding that on a very specific level would be a good place to start, right? There's a saying, the more you look at your bank account, the more you know where the money in and money out is. You're only as successful as how far you're able to predict your future. If you predict 1 day out versus 1 week out versus 1 month out versus 1 year out versus 5 years out versus 10 years out, there are levels to this, right? Just like we can have this discussion between me and you because there's kind of value that you can gain from this. Bill Gates, all these other richer people that are ahead of me can do the same thing to me and criticize me as well, right? So don't feel bad about this. Just the fact that you're having the courage to have this discussion means that you're going to be very successful into the future. Plan out the type of job that you're going to have. You know, too often we go into these majors, and I made this mistake. I just didn't have the insight like you are having now. What is the average income and the average job I'm going to get once I graduate? And how do I factor that into my decision making? Like, what are my opportunities? What are my options? Okay, in my mind, there are 3 or 4 different types of jobs out there that I could get and that I'm willing to do. What do they pay? Take the job that you need to take to get to your next step. Of course, don't cut off your opportunities. If your average job pays 50K a year in your industry, but man, you just can't find a job, pick any job until you can find the next job. Pick any job, especially if you have debt. You're in that grind period where you're going to have to work hard. I think life balances everyone. You're either going to work hard now or you're going to work hard later. I had to work really hard at the beginning with dental school and buying businesses. I still don't get to enjoy life like to the fullest because I bought a business early. My student loans are $2,500 a month. My loan amount for my first dental practice is $8,000 a month. It's going to take a lot of time, 10 years, until I really get the benefit of it. I made the decision to delay the gratification and grind it out now so that hopefully I can have infinite time and infinite money later, right? So the decisions that you make now to grind it out, to get out of debt is a good way to think about it. But start out trying to plan as much as possible. Figure out how much is coming in. Make assumptions. This step takes a lot of time. Step 2 and 3, you could interchange. And I go back to Dave Ramsey. He has a lot of good content out there. Follow some financial YouTube gurus. If you want me to double check, I'm happy to be there with you to like give you a second opinion on it. There's a balance in terms of the decision based on how much to spend if you have extra savings towards your credit card debt versus getting to the 3-month spending amount. And it's a personal decision, right? You might make a decision if you have like 2 or 3 credit cards. Some people make the decision to knock out one credit card because it motivates them. That motivation is powerful. Although it may not be the ideal financial decision, that motivation allows you to grind it out harder. It's something to pay attention to. It's not something to completely discount.